In the middle Bible class, I got a video from Josh from the baby class, and it is really sweet for Father's Day. So we're going to show that real quick. It's the let's book me sit upon
Yeah.
So happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. It's sweet. There's one more video I got to show this morning, but you're going to have to stand up first because I told you last week we don't want to be embarrassed in front of Matsiko. So come on, stand up. We don't want to be embarrassed when these kids can do. All right, let's hit it.
Oh Lord, I need you now more than ever. Would you put my heart back together? I searched the world till my head hurt just to find out your ways better.
All right, now one more time.
Oh Lord, I need you now more than ever. Would you put my heart back together? I searched the world till my head hurt just to find out your ways better.
Now, those of you that did it did really good. The rest of you, should we do it like 5 more times? No, just kidding. Here, sit down. All right. Those of you that did it did really, really well. You should be proud of yourselves. All right. So, Matsiko will be here in a week. I still need host families, guys. I really still need. Now, if you can't do the whole week, I know it's Monday through Friday. If you're like, I can't do that, let me know. We'll split it with somebody. You can do Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday. Somebody can do Thursday, Friday, or vice versa. But we still need some host families. These kids, listen, these kids have grown up in rough situations, and they say they prefer to sleep 3 and 4 in a bed. So if you're thinking, I just have one queen bed or full bed, that's what they prefer. I mean, they want to be together, so they don't require a ton. We're going to be feeding them lunch and dinner most days. So, Josh?
I just want to say that they changed our lives forever when they stayed with us last year. You will be changed. They do all the work in your house. They clean it. That is the truth. They do not let you stand up and do anything. It is the biggest blessing that we have ever had. So you're missing out if you don't host them.
It's fantastic. They're wonderful. I need a couple more host homes. So please, really, if you haven't, consider doing that. They're going to be here whether we have host homes or not. So we're gonna put them somewhere. But please consider doing that. And then come next week. We're going to do the ice cream social on Tuesday at our house. I know that's normally a weekend thing. You may be thinking, well, I got to get off work. Just come, bring, if you can bring some ice cream or some sweets. We're going to have a great time. We'll have a blast with them. We're going to have the barbecue here on Wednesday. And then Wednesday night, they're going to do their concert. Now, how many, raise your hand if you came to the concert last year? It was, nod your head if it was awesome, okay? Come to the concert Wednesday night. It'll be 7 o'clock. Bring friends. You have never seen anything like this. And even if you saw it last year, it's going to be totally different because this is a different group of kids from all around the world. Last year, they were all from one country in Africa. This year, they're from all over the world. Then Thursday, there's going to be a party over at Joshua's house, and that's fun even if Matsiko's not there. But we're going to have a blast over there. He's going to smoke some barbecue, which he believes is the best barbecue in the church. It's debatable. It's very debatable. But anyway, come and enjoy and hang out. These kids, when they left here, ice cream. I said Tuesday's ice cream social, Wednesday's barbecue, and then Thursday at Joshua's house. When they left here last year, they were texting us and the leaders, and they were like, the kids are saying this is the favorite place they've ever went. And I was like, yeah, they probably say that everywhere. Literally, they've not left me alone. Like all year, the kids have all heard from last year's kids. They say Kentucky is the best. We already knew that. But the problem is we put the bar way up here. We got to live up to it. So show up, be part of it. We're really excited. You will be blessed. Okay, now it is Father's Day. And if you're like me, sometimes it sneaks up on you, and maybe you didn't have time yet to get something for your dad. And maybe you're thinking, after church, I need to run to Walmart, and I need to get a Father's Day gift, and I have no idea what to get him. So I have been helpful. I'm a helpful guy. I've compiled some ideas. I'm going to share with you guys some ideas of things you might could pick up if you still need a Father's Day gift for your dad. Now, tools are usually great. Most dads love tools, and they all know how to use them perfectly safely. So maybe a wood chipper like this. Get dad a wood chipper. He'll know what to do. Use it perfectly safely. Maybe if not that, maybe a grinder, but you might consider getting the face shield thing too for him. Ladders are always a good idea. Everybody needs a ladder. They know how to safely use them. So just can't ever go wrong with that. Of course, there's the old standby duct tape. He'll always find a use for it. You will never say no to a roll of duct tape. And if tools aren't the thing for your dad, if you're like, he's not that handy, he's more of a recreational guy, maybe a bicycle. That's a very safe hobby, good exercise, heart health. If he's not into biking, maybe a bow and arrow. Good father-son bonding there. For the adrenaline junkie dad, how about a go-kart? Go-karts are great, lots of fun. Or trade the wheels for reels and get him a fishing boat. Well, you might consider getting the trailer too. Might be a helpful thing. And if none of that works for dad, there's always one, a bigger TV. Just get him a bigger TV. Every dad loves that. You might consider paying for the delivery service, though, if you get him the big TV. Now, for me, one of the things I've gotten my dad many times over the years is books. My dad is a big reader. He will read. He'll come to our house and read. He'll go to the lake and read. Wherever he goes, he's got a book with him. And so if I read a really good book, sometimes I'll send my dad a copy of that. And one book that I brought with me today that I really, really love is this book here, Saving the World Entire. This is just such a good book. I've really, really enjoyed this. What this is, it is a collection of parables, 100 Jewish parables from the Talmud. Now, the Talmud is a word, you might have heard us mention it before. It's kind of like a commentary on the Old Testament that the Jews were compiling a little bit before and a little bit after the time of Jesus. And so this document, the Talmud, gives us a pretty good insight into what the Jews were thinking, feeling, believing in the centuries before and after Jesus. And during that time, just like Jesus spoke in parables, many of the rabbis taught in parables. And 100 of the most treasured ones are contained in this book. I really, really like it. But the reason I have this book here today is because of its name. Isn't it a weird name, Saving the World Entire? It's just a strange name. It comes from one of the parables. It's a very, very famous Jewish Talmudic parable. And it's really more of a proverb than a parable. And the proverb itself goes like this. Anyone who destroys even one life destroys an entire world. And he who preserves the equivalent of a single life has saved the equivalent of the entire world. Now, I know that's a lot to take in. It's a lot to think about. But let me explain it to you. Bear with me just a moment. The saying itself is actually the answer to a question. The rabbis for centuries asked the question, why did God start by creating one person? Surely it wasn't too hard for the God of the universe to snap his fingers and all of civilization to appear, all of humanity to appear. Why did he start? What was the purpose and the reason? God doesn't do things without a purpose. What was the purpose and the reason that he started with one person? Well, the rabbis, after thinking about this for generations, they came to an answer that they felt satisfied with. That God created one man in his image as the only person in this great, big, beautiful world that God had created in order to show that man the immense value that God had for each individual. Inside of Adam was all the potential for all human life that would ever exist. The entire world that we know. It was all wrapped up within Adam's existence, within Adam's DNA. And by extension, each one of us, sons and daughters of Adam, has within us, God's image, an entire world of potential, just like Adam did. Therefore, God values each of us as individuals. To take one life, to take Adam's life would have been to destroy the entire world. But to take any life is to destroy an entire potential world. And the rabbis go on to say that just as God created an entire beautiful world, an entire beautiful creation, and for a time it was inhabited by only Adam, God would have created an entire beautiful creation and world for each one of us because he values us that much. It's kind of a beautiful answer to an interesting question. And then the proverb comes from that. When you save one life, you save the entire world. It's kind of deep stuff, right? Jews were deep thinkers. Now, we've been studying for the last couple weeks Abraham, our spiritual father. And God told Abraham back in Genesis 12, I will make you a great nation. 12:1-3, the Lord had said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. And I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on the earth will be blessed through you. So he tells Abram, soon to be Abraham, your descendants will be more numerous than the stars in the sky, something an old man with a barren wife could not even begin to imagine. He told him that he would bless all the people whom Abraham blessed and curse all the people who Abraham cursed, that all nations would be blessed through Abraham. God had a plan to accomplish this, and that plan was going to proceed through the son born to Abraham in his old age, Isaac. But you guys know, Abraham messed up the whole thing, right? He messed up the whole thing. Abraham was waiting so long to become a dad that he and Sarah got impatient, and he did become a dad, but not through Sarah. Sarah gave him Hagar, the slave woman. He had a child, Ishmael, and now there's nothing but problems. In fact, the jealousy is so bad that Hagar runs away not once, but twice. Now God, who has this plan to bless the entire world and give numerous descendants through the child, Isaac, has two children to deal with. There's Isaac, the child of the covenant, the child of the promise, and there's Ishmael, the child outside of the covenant, the child outside of the promise, the child born through sin and manipulation. And what is God to do? Who will be blessed? Who will be chosen? Which son is really the valuable one? I just want to stop right there for a minute. I want to stop right there and talk about that word, value, because it is at the center of this question. Now, I have a little Bill Nye the Science Guy thing going on back here. And I love creating tension, so I'm sure that all through service, some of you have been going, what is that? What does that look like? What's the shape of that? And now here comes the great unveiling, right? Any guesses? Probably didn't guess. It's a bunch of water. We're going to talk a little bit, and I'm going to have Isaac come up here and help me. We're going to talk a little bit about value. Isaac, come on up here, bud. Isaac, anytime somebody comes on stage, this is what they want. Money, right? So there's some money, okay? Now, here's what we're going to do, Isaac. I've got 3 types of water here, okay? Right here, I got plain old tap water, all right? Good old, I'm not going to say anything bad about it because there is someone here who used to be in charge of the tap water around here. But good old McCracken County tap water. Then right here, I have some great value purified drinking water, okay? I'm not to pour it in. We all know what it's like. Just, I don't even know where. Let's see. Distributed by Walmart. It's not even from a spring. It was purified by reverse osmosis, whatever that is. Reverse osmosis. Okay. Over here, I have core hydration. Perfectly balanced pH purified water with electrolytes and minerals for taste. It has got a 7.4 pH, your body's natural pH balance. There were 7 stages of purification, and it's in a recyclable plastic bottle. So what I want you to do is I want you to decide, based on that money, there's 3 different bills. There's a 1, a 5, and a 20. You look at this, and you decide which one is the most and the least valuable. Well, that was quick. All right. All right. So now we're going to do this. All right. Just so everybody can see this, all right, I want you to tape it to the front of the table there in front of the one you picked, okay? All right, you do that. I'm going to get the next 2 for you. So everybody can see what you picked. All right. And there you put that one there. And let's give Isaac a hand for his help, okay? Thank you, sir. You can have that one. You know that one? Okay, all right. There you go. All right. So, thank you, Isaac. I appreciate it. All right. So he put $1, the least value, on the tap water. All right? He put the $5 bill on the purified Walmart drinking water. And he put the $20 bill on the core hydration fancy water, designer water, right? So I'm not trying to say that this water costs $20. That would be ridiculous, but it did cost like $5, so that's kind of ridiculous anyway. But it's just a statement of value. If you have to choose which is the most and which is the least valuable, this is how Isaac categorized it. I think, just raise your hand if you probably would have categorized it similarly to Isaac. I think we'd probably all be on the same page there. Yeah, I mean, Glenn might not, but he's got his own reasons. Glenn's like, this is the most value. He knows what goes into that, right? So, but we know that, like, simply put, we have a value that we assign to things all the time. But the thing is, guys, we're not actually talking about water. I'm not talking about water at all. I'm talking about people. And this is going to get a little uncomfortable. If you were asked to do the same thing, and instead of bottles of water, I had pictures of human beings up here, and I were to say, which one's the most valuable? Most people would probably go, I'm not doing this. But inside our hearts and our minds, we do it all the time. So let's just say it was let's say it was Joe. Joe is a 65-year-old retired teacher. He spent his career making less money to work in an impoverished school district because he wanted to teach immigrant students who had moved to the U.S. midway through elementary school and did not speak English as their native language. He was a bit overqualified because he actually has a doctorate degree in English education, and he could have worked anywhere, but he wanted to devote his life to these kids. He also raised 4 kids of his own, all who are now adults, married with kids of their own. His kids are lawyers, doctors, college professors. He served as a shepherd in his church, and when he noticed marriages were struggling, he enrolled in a 3-year Christian counseling program so he could offer free marriage counseling to couples at his church. There are 7 couples over the past 30 years that credit him for saving their marriage. Now that he's retired, he and his wife of 40 years get to do what they really love. They travel around the country volunteering with a Christian disaster relief agency. They rebuild homes and feed people who have lost everything. And they do it at their own expense. They never complain about it. They're just glad to help. That's Joe. Where would you put Joe? Well, it'd be hard to argue against the fact that he's the designer of water. I mean, when you talk about the value of his life, we humans do it all the time, right? We look at the good that you've done for others, how well you've raised your family, your value in the workplace, and we make assessments. And it'd be pretty hard to argue against Joe as being the core hydration, the most valuable one on the table. But what happens when we flip it to the other end? Now we're going to talk about Mark. Mark had a great childhood. No real problems. He came from a good family. But 1 week after his 18th birthday, he was goofing around with some friends at Walmart, and somebody dared him to shoplift, and he did, but he got caught. And Walmart doesn't mess around. So they pressed hard for the judge to make an example of him. He spent 60 days in jail. Once he got out, he found it really hard to get a job in the small town that he lived in when his name and face had been plastered all over the newspaper as a shoplifter. So eventually, he had a friend that he had made in jail who offered him a good amount of money to deliver some unmarked packages with no questions asked. Mark was pretty sure that it was stolen pain meds in the packages, but he didn't ask any questions because he really needed the money. One thing led to another, and before he knew it, he was in pretty deep. He found himself breaking into cars and houses to steal pill bottles. He tried to stay away from using it himself, but some late-night parties, and eventually he got hooked on meth. His memories from the next few years are sketchy, but when he landed in jail at the age of 30, the list of charges included a lot of things he couldn't really remember doing, but everybody said he had, including robbery, assault, drug trafficking, and several counts of sexual assault and battery. His parents took out a home equity loan for $45,000 to bail him out so that he could go into rehab. But 2 days in, he slipped out the back door and disappeared across the state line. It meant his parents would lose the bail money, but he'd heard there was a guy in Central Florida who could help him hide out from the law in the woods and might even help him get more meth. Please don't answer this out loud, but where would you or other people put Mark on the value scale. I'm not going to. That would be the way most people would think, wouldn't it? Say, man, he's got no worth to society. He's hurting people. He's causing problems. At our worst, humans assign value to each other based on external things. Our society, worth, past mistakes, future potential, our age, our health, the hurts we caused others. But God doesn't see it that way at all. When we look at these cups, we see the designer water, the filtered water, and the tap water. The thing is, one of the reasons we think that there's no value is sometimes that water gets polluted. Isaac, I want you to come back up here. I want you to drink this. Isaac, you want to come up here and drink this water now? And put the coffee grounds in and spit in? You want that? No? Is it worth $1 still? I just spit in it. I don't think you saw that. Would you pay $1 for that? If you went to the gas station and they had all these lined up and this one, would you pay for that? Yeah. We tend to say, that's polluted. That's dirty. It can't be redeemed. It's worthless. It's no good. But when you look at these from a chemistry point of view, they all contain the same thing, right? 2 hydrogen models and an oxygen model. Sure, there may be other impurities. There may be electrolytes and minerals for taste. But in the end, they're all the same thing. It's water. Water fundamentally doesn't change. Despite what companies want you to think, there's no such thing in nature as pineapple water, coconut water, hint of strawberry water. Water is 2 hydrogen molecules and an oxygen molecule. At the base, that's what they are. And when we humans look at each other, we tend to see all these differences. But when God looks at us, at our base, what does he see? He sees the same thing. His breath and dust. He breathed his spirit into matter, into creation, and humans were born. And it doesn't really matter to God what path you've been down, what you've done. When he looks at you at the base, he sees his divine spark, his breath, his spirit still inside of you. He doesn't see value the way people do. Good people, bad people. People with a high net worth, people with a low net worth. Living babies or clumps of cells. God doesn't see it that way. He sees his divine spark inside of us. And the beauty of it all is that God knows that he is the infinite source of that divine spark. You know what happens to humans when anybody decides they want to be redeemed by God? It's pretty simple. He pours his spirit forth into them. And when God pours forth his spirit, he washes away all the impurities until eventually all that's left is his spirit. It doesn't matter how many pollutants are in you. If the water itself came from God, if the Spirit of God in you came from him, he can pour his Spirit into you until it washes out everything else. And so God doesn't see value based on what has polluted you. God sees value based on what he can put into you, what he has put into you. So, God looks at Abraham. Isaac, the child of the promise. The child that came the right way. The child that came through the miracle. The child that God intended to be there. And Ishmael. The child outside of the covenant. The child that was born of sin and manipulation. The child that was not intended to be part of the story, but now is. And it's interesting because the verse I read to you back in chapter 12, God said, Abraham, I will make you into a great nation. Singular. I want you to look very closely now at what God says after the birth of Ishmael in chapter 17. Abraham fell face down, and God said to him, as for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. Plural. No longer will you be called Abram, but your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. Hagar runs away the second time. God says, it's okay. I see you. I see your son, and your son will also be a great nation. He will be part of the blessing too. Her son is about to die of thirst in the wilderness, and God brings them to a spring so that Ishmael can drink. Because just like God sees Hagar, he sees Ishmael. He says, I made a promise to Abram that he would be the father of many descendants, that his offspring will be blessed. Ishmael is his offspring. He will be blessed as well. God went from a singular to a plural to accommodate something that was never part of his plan, because now we have humans involved that have value. Is it God's plan for a teenage girl to get pregnant? No. But does God love that child just as much as any other human he's ever created? Absolutely. God will accommodate. He will bless. Not to condone sin. He's not condoning what Abraham did. He's not condoning it, saying, oh, that was a great idea, Abraham, how you went and had sex with this other woman and had a baby. God's not condoning, but God will bless, because now we have a child here. And Ishmael is also a son of Abraham. This idea that all human life has value, that all of it has dignity, that we are more than clumps of cells organized by a happy accident in the universe, but rather we are image bearers of the divine, unique and wonderful masterpieces of the architect of the cosmos. This idea is sometimes called Imago Dei, which means God's image. It's a phrase in Latin that was first put forth by the early church fathers. These are the leaders in the church in the 1st and 2nd century. To describe, they put this phrase forward really to describe why they continually defied the Roman Empire. You see, in Rome at the time, it was illegal and common practice to take any baby that you didn't want, just leave it outside your door to die. Leave it outside for the animals to eat. It was called exposure. And so far as anybody can tell, this had been the practice in most societies around the world for centuries. This is why people at that time did not name babies until the 8th day. You don't want to get too attached. What if a couple of days in you realize the baby is jaundiced, or it's not thriving, or just isn't what you wanted, it cries too much? You might just want to leave it outside. In fact, archaeologists have even uncovered a mass grave in Rome of 100 infant skeletons. But the early Christians saw God's creation of one where man, every man, is made in God's image. And they saw that God valued each man. And these early Christians saw God blessing Ishmael, someone outside the covenant, outside the purpose, someone born from sin and manipulation. And they saw God gave him value, and so God gives every man value. These Christians saw Jesus bringing children to him, hugging lepers, teaching them, his disciples, to love the least of these in his name. And they knew that he valued every single life equally. So the Christians did something radical. They started naming their babies the day they were born. The day they were born, they gave them names, simply to show that these children had value, that they were humans, and that God cared about them, and they did too. And if you can believe this, they refused to stand by and watch their heathen neighbors, the Romans, the sons and daughters of the very people who were arresting and persecuting them. They refused to watch those sons and daughters be laid outside to be eaten by animals. And so when night would fall, at great personal risk, these Christians would leave their homes and they would go through the city streets and they would scoop up these babies and they would distribute them among the other believers, and they would raise these children as their own. Did they have extra food to feed those kids? No. Did they have extra rooms? Were these parents who were pining for a child that they couldn't have? No. They made room. They found a way. Because they believed that every single one of those children who were outside the promise, who were outside the covenant, that were the children of the persecutors, they were the children of the enemies of God, that those children were valued by God. And that God loved them just as much as he loved each Christian. In the 2nd century, these early church fathers wrote a document that we call the Didache. And then the Didache, it records a lot about the church and the early Christian life during the Roman Empire. It's a really valuable document in studying the early church. And they wrote in that a principle, a commandment, basically, a teaching that they believed all Christians should adhere to. You shall not murder a child in destruction, nor shall you kill one just born. There's nothing specifically in the Bible addressing infanticide. But the Christians read and they understood the theology of God's value of life. And so early on in Christianity, they said, as Christians, it's a rule. You don't kill a baby. That radical stance changed the whole world. People started to notice. Within 2 centuries, the practice of exposure was outlawed in the Roman Empire. Infanticide became a crime. Children became valued. All the laws that we have today, all around the world, that protect children started right there with the church. The historian Mango Sabo Black documents all this in her book, When Children Became People. She travels through the history of children's rights in the entire world. She traces it all back through all the continents, through all the centuries, back to the beginning. And where does she say it begins? With this strange man named Jesus of Nazareth. How do we value life? Oh, this guy's great. That guy not so much. This guy's worth a bunch of money. That guy's an addict and an abuser. This child's great, healthy, smart, successful parents. Oh, this one unwanted, disabled, worthless. Or do you see each and every life as the Imago Dei, the very image of the divine? Do you see a God who wants nothing more than to keep pouring his divine spirit into each human being until all the dirt is washed away and all that's left is the pure Spirit of God inside of their flesh? So here's what I want you to do. Today, after you go out for lunch with your dads, after you do your Father's Day stuff, I want you to go home, I want you to go out in the garage. I want you to find some high-capacity electric wire, and I want you to take it and I want you to twist it into the shape of the letter Y. That's called a flux capacitor. You're going to put it in your DeLorean and you're going to go back in time, okay? And I want you to look through all the centuries. You check out what I'm saying here. Go century by century and you look and you see if anywhere in any time when Abraham lived all the way forward to the Roman Empire, if people in the world could ever even imagine living in a world where children have legal protection, where children are treasured, cared for, and valued as people. You see if you can find it. And I'll tell you what, you won't find it, and there's 2 reasons. One, you don't have any plutonium, so you can't make your time machine work. But 2, because it was unimaginable. It only became a reality because God spoke it into existence. And here's the thing. This is what we've been saying. We got 1 more week on this series, and I just really want you to understand that we serve a God who can do more than we ask or imagine. Now, that is so comforting, right? That is so comforting when you're in the hospital and you're praying for that loved one, when you're struggling financially, when it seems like nothing is going right. And we go, God, you can do more than we can ask or imagine. And what we really mean in that moment is, God, I can imagine this crisis going away, so can you please do this? But God means so much more than that. God means there are things you don't even understand, that you don't even know, that should exist, that you will never be able to picture in your mind's eye unless I speak them into your life. And that's what the Word of God is. The Word of God is speaking into humanity the stuff that humanity can never come up with on its own. It's speaking into us things that if we kept going on our own way, we would say, I want more, I want more, I want more. I don't care who gets in my way. I'm going to step on their heads. I'm going to get what I want. And then there's this, oh, wait, what does this say right here? Fruits of the Spirit. I didn't really think about that. Maybe I should. And we change. Because God can imagine a world where He reigns. He can imagine a world where children are valued. They're not just cells. They're not just clumps of flesh. He can imagine a world where women and men can stand as equals. He can imagine a world where there's no racial disparity, where there's no poverty. He can imagine a world where people can act justly and love mercy, where they can care about each other, and where they can give and sacrifice and hurt so that other people don't have to. He can see it and he can speak it into reality. But he chooses to speak it into us and pour his Spirit into us so that the divine can be real in this world. And the world that we live in that has bits and pieces of God's vision was unimaginable before God spoke that into us. Now, the enemy will lie and the enemy will say it's not from God. It is from God. Even the secular historians say, oh, it's Jesus guy, he said all this, and that's where it all kind of started. God can do more than we can ask or imagine. So let's live that out. Let's leave this place. Let's live that out. Let's live as believers who know that God has a greater vision for this world than what is here right now. Let's be excited to be part of that vision as we value every person the way that God does.